They say hearing is the last sense you lose before you die. And boy, are they right. I have been stuck in this bed for 3 weeks, stiff as a board, with half my body dead because of the stroke. But my ears work better than a lynx's. I closed my eyes when I heard the creaking of the door. I knew who they were by the sound of their footsteps. Emily, my youngest daughter, walks dragging her feet, always in a hurry, always nervous. Michael, the oldest, has heavy, arrogant footsteps, as if the ground owed him money. God, what a stench! Emily exclaimed as soon as she entered. I felt her throw the window open, letting in the cold afternoon air that chilled me to the bone. It smells like formaldehyde and dirty diapers. Does the nurse not wash him properly? Keep your voice down, Em, Michael replied. I felt his presence beside me, too close. His breath smelled of coffee and stale tobacco. The old man is still asleep. Look at him. He does not even move. Asleep or already gone? She asked with a nervous giggle that turned my stomach. Sometimes I think he is just faking it to screw up our lives a little longer. I remained motionless. I've learned to control my breathing, to keep my eyelids sealed, even though inside I am screaming. It is the only trick I have left. Don't say stupid things, Michael said, and I felt him take my wrist to check my pulse. His fingers were cold, without a shred of affection. He is still alive. His heart is beating strong, the stubborn old mule. He has the health of an oak tree, just our luck. Bad luck? Michael, I am fed up. We have been coming to this gloomy house for a month, pretending we care if he took his medicine or if his diaper was changed. I have a life, you know. My friends are going to the Hamptons next week, and here I am, trapped in this mausoleum, waiting for Dad to decide to, you know. Patience, little sister. Patience. Michael's voice dropped, becoming conspiratorial. The doctor was clear. The last stroke left him practically a vegetable. He does not hear, he does not understand. His brain is mush. It is a matter of weeks, at most a couple of months, before he kicks the bucket. Weeks, Emily snorted. Meanwhile, the house is falling apart, and maintenance costs an arm and a leg. Did you talk to the notary? Yes. Everything is ready. We just need him to kick the bucket, or, in a moment of lucidity, sign the full power of attorney. Once we have that, we sell this big house to the first developer that shows up and we split the cash. 50-50, as we agreed. And if he lasts longer, what if he becomes a burden for years? I am not going to clean his rear end, Michael. I'm warning you. If he lasts longer, we send him to that nursing home I told you about, Shady Pines. It is cheap, it is on the outskirts, and no one is going to visit him there. Anyway, if he does not know anything, what difference does it make if he is here or in a 10 by 10 room? I felt a glacial chill run down my spine. It was not the air from the window, it was betrayal, pure and hard betrayal from my own blood. My children, whom I carried on my shoulders, to whom I gave everything they asked for and more, were standing by my deathbed, not praying for my recovery, but calculating how much my coffin cost. Well, let's go, Michael said, patting my cheek condescendingly. The way you hit an old dog? Let the nurse deal with him. I am hungry, and I want to see if there's any wine left in Dad's cellar. I hope it is the expensive stuff. I deserve a drink after putting up with this smell. They left the room laughing. Their laughter bounced off the walls of my room and stuck in my chest, deeper than any dagger. When the click of the door closing sounded, I opened my eyes. A solitary tear, hot and salty, rolled down my paralyzed cheek until it got lost in the pillow. Vultures, I whispered with the raspy voice I had left. You are damned vultures. But the vultures are making a mistake. They think the lion is dead because he does not roar. They do not know that the lion is just sharpening his claws. Before we continue, subscribe to the Williams Revenge Stories channel and tell us where you are listening from in the comments below. Look at me, the great Mr. Robert Miller, the man who arrived in this city with nothing but the shirt on his back, with worn-out boots and his stomach stuck to his spine, the man who built a construction empire, who laid the foundations for half the suburbs, and whom everyone greeted with respect when passing. "Good morning, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, how is the family?" Now I am this, a lump under the sheets, an old piece of furniture that gets in the way of the modern decoration my children want to impose. The stroke hit me 3 months ago. It was like lightning in a clear sky. I was in the office reviewing some blueprints, and suddenly the world tilted. I woke up in the hospital with the left half of my body useless and a heavy tongue, as if I had a rag in my mouth. But my mind, thank God, my mind remains intact, trapped in this prison of flaccid flesh. Yes, but lucid as spring water. I understand everything. I remember everything. I know how much is in the bank, down to the last penny. And I know exactly when the birthday of each of those ingrates is, even if they forget mine. At first I tried to speak. I tried to tell them, "I'm here. Do not treat me like an idiot." But only guttural babbles came out, and I saw their faces. I saw the impatience in Michael's eyes and the disguised disgust in Emily's. "Don't strain yourself, Dad," they told me. "Rest. We don't understand you." That was when I decided to stay silent. If they think I am a vegetable, let them believe it. Information is power. I learned that in business, and now my silence is my best weapon. The nurse, a robust woman named Nurse Betty, came in to change my position. Betty is good people, although a bit rough. She talks to me about the weather and her soap operas, without expecting an answer. At least she does not look at me as if I were a blank check. "Oh, Mr. Miller, your eyes are wide open today," she told me while adjusting my pillows. "Did you hear your children? They came for a little while. It is good that they visit you, right? Not all old folks have that luck." I wanted to laugh, but only a twisted grimace came out. "Luck," she says. If Betty knew that those two vultures were drinking my reserve wine downstairs, celebrating my imminent funeral, she would pity me. I stared at the ceiling, counting the wooden beams that I installed myself 30 years ago. I built this house for Linda, my late wife. Every brick has a story. Every corner has a memory. We raised those two here. They ran here. They cried here when they scraped their knees, and I was always there to pick them up. At what moment did it all go wrong? Was it my fault? My hands? I try to lift my right hand, the good one. It is full of age spots, but under the thin skin you can still feel the calluses. They are workers' hands. Hands that know what it is to carry bags of cement under the midday sun. They have soft hands, manicured hands, office hands with air conditioning, hands that have never had to tighten a nut or mix concrete. My body hurts, yes, but my pride hurts more. I feel humiliated in my own fortress. Watching them come in and out, move my things, talk about me in the third person while I'm present, is Chinese torture. He does not hear. He does not understand. That phrase has become my mantra. They repeat it so much that I almost believe it. But no, as long as I have a breath of life left, I am going to listen. I am going to listen to every dirty plan, every lie, every insult, and I will wait, because in this life, he who laughs last, laughs best. And Mr. Robert Miller is not leaving this world without letting out one last laugh. I close my eyes and let myself be carried away by memory, fleeing the smell of medicine. I see myself 40 years ago, young, strong, with black hair and full of sawdust. Linda was alive then, my Linda, a woman with honey-colored eyes and the patience of a saint. We lived in a small apartment when Michael was born. I remember we didn't even have enough for good milk, and I would go to the construction sites at 5 in the morning and come back at 10 at night, exhausted, with my back in tatters. "I promise you, Linda," I told her one night, while we counted the coins to pay the rent, "that this child will lack nothing. He is not going to suffer what I suffered. He is going to be a king." And I kept my promise. Boy, did I keep it. I worked from sunrise to sunset. I saved every dollar. I bought my first lot, then another, then I started the construction company. Money started coming in. When Emily was born, we were already living in a decent house. She was my princess. If she wanted a doll, she got 10. If she wanted a dress, I had it made to measure. I put Michael in the best private schools, the ones where the children of politicians and wealthy businessmen go. I wanted him to rub shoulders with the best of society. Robert, you are spoiling them, Linda warned me sometimes with that quiet wisdom she had. They don't know what it costs to earn bread. You give them everything on a silver platter. Let them be, woman. I work hard so they can enjoy. I want them to have the life we didn't have. How blind I was. Damn my blindness. I confused love with indulgence. I thought being a good father was avoiding any effort, any pain for them. I removed the stones from their path, and in doing so, I took away their ability to walk on their own. When Linda died of cancer 10 years ago, my world collapsed. But they barely cried at the funeral. Emily was more worried about her makeup running, and Michael spent the whole time talking on his cell phone about business. I should have realized it then. But the pain of losing my partner clouded my vision. I clung to them because they were the only thing I had left of her. I gave them positions in the company, positions where they collected manager salaries without doing anything. I bought them new cars every year, paid off their credit card debts, financed the whims of Michael's wife and Emily's trips. I created monsters. By wanting to make them kings, I raised tyrants. Tyrants who now look at their kingdom, my house, my money, and see the old king as a hindrance that must be eliminated. I remember once, a couple of years ago, when Michael asked me for money to invest in a restaurant. I told him no, that the business looked risky. He turned red with fury and shouted at me, "You are old. Your ideas are outdated. Release the money, you cheapskate." It hurt, but I gave it to him. I always gave in, always thinking, they will mature, they will understand. Now I understand that it is my fault. I sowed this greed. I watered this ingratitude with my money. And now I am here, reaping what I sowed. A tear escapes me again. Forgive me, Linda. I failed you. I promised to take care of them, but I ended up ruining them. And now they want to finish ruining me. But I swear by the cross on your grave, honey, that I am going to fix this mess before I go to your side, even if it is the last thing I do. Last week the situation went from bad to worse. Michael, under the pretext of taking better care of me, decided to move his entire family into my house. "It is for the best, Dad," he told me, without looking me in the eyes, while his movers brought in boxes and more boxes. "That way Sarah and I will be watching over you 24 hours a day. Besides, we save the rent on our apartment, which is super expensive." Of course, the savings. Always the damn money. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, is a woman who looks like she came out of a fashion magazine, but has a soul drier than a desert. Since she set foot here, she has behaved like the lady of the manor. The first thing she did was fire Martha. Martha had been working with me for 20 years. She knew my tastes. She knew how to make my coffee. She read me the newspaper in the mornings. She was loyal, like few others. "We don't need that gossiping old woman," I heard Sarah say in the hallway. "She charges too much and smells like onions. I will take care of the kitchen, and we will hire a girl by the day for cleaning. We have to cut expenses if we want to maintain the lifestyle, Michael." When Martha came to say goodbye, she was weeping uncontrollably. She took my hand and kissed it. "Take care, boss. May God bless you. Don't let them hurt you," I wanted to scream. "Don't go, Martha. Don't leave me alone with these wolves." But I could only squeeze her hand weakly. It was my only goodbye. Now my days are a hell of noise and contempt. Sarah has taken over the kitchen, but instead of making me nutritious soups like Martha did, she brings me watery, cold oatmeal or instant mashed potatoes that taste like cardboard. "Father-in-law, here's your food," she says, leaving the plate on the little table with a dry thud. "Eat it fast, because I have to go to the beauty salon, and I don't want the ants to gather." She does not even help me eat. I have to struggle with my good hand, trembling, spilling half the food on the bib, feeling like a useless baby. And she stands there looking at her cell phone, sighing with impatience every time I drop a spoonful. They have changed the furniture in the living room. I hear the bumps, the dragging of tables. They are erasing my trace. They are taking down the paintings Linda painted, those simple landscapes we loved so much, to put up modern art that looks like paint stains thrown at random. That leather armchair is horrible, Michael, Sarah said yesterday. Let's throw it in the trash. My armchair, the armchair where I sat to read stories to my grandkids, where I rested after work, to the trash, like me. The invasion is total. They have occupied the guest rooms, the study, the garden. I hear their parties at night. Loud music, fake laughter, champagne corks flying. They are spending my money right under my nose. Cheers to Grandpa, someone shouted last night. I think it was a friend of Michael's. May he last. Just long enough? Laughter. I am a prisoner in my own house, a house I built with sweat and blood, now turned into a hotel for parasites. I feel a rage burning in my chest, a rage that curiously gives me strength. Every insult is gasoline. Every plate of cold food is one more reason not to give up. They think they have won the war because they have taken the castle, but they forget that the king is still alive in the highest tower, and this king has a long memory. In the midst of this darkness, there's a single ray of light, a small, restless, and noisy ray. My grandson Sammy. Sammy is 5 years old and is the son of Michael and Sarah. Blessed be God, the boy did not take after his parents. He has nobility in his gaze and that pure curiosity that we adults forget over the years. He is the only one who enters my room without covering his nose and without looking at the watch. "Grandpa!" he shouts when he enters, running like a rocket until he breaks at the foot of my bed. Sometimes he brings his cars, sometimes his dinosaurs. He climbs onto the bed carefully, even though his mother has forbidden him to bother Grandpa. Mom says you're asleep, but I know you hear me, he whispers, bringing his little face close to mine. His big dark eyes examine me. Today I brought Captain America to protect you. If I could cry without them seeing me, I would do it every time this kid talks to me. He tells me his adventures in kindergarten. He talks to me about his imaginary friends. To him, I am not a piece of furniture or a check. I am his grandpa. Yesterday afternoon, Sammy came in with a new toy. One of those modern things I don't understand well. It looked like a little white robot with a camera and little lights. Look, Grandpa, it is a baby monitor. My mom used it with my little sister when she was a baby. But since she grew up, I grabbed it to play spies. He started playing that the robot was guarding the secret base, which was my bed. He hid it under my nightstand, behind a pile of old books, that Sarah hasn't thrown away yet, because she is too lazy to carry them. No one is going to see it here, Sammy said with a conspiratorial voice. The robot is going to record everything the bad guys say, and it connects to the phone. Look, he showed me an old tablet he was carrying. On the screen you could see my room, grainy but clear, and my breathing could be heard. Sammy, come down to eat, Sarah shouted from the hallway with that shrill voice that drills into my brain. I'm coming, Sammy jumped down. I leave you the spy robot, Grandpa. Take care of it. I'll come for it later. He ran out and closed the door. I stared at the nightstand. A little red light blinked weakly in the dark, hidden among the shadows of the books. The device was still on. At first, I didn't give it importance. A forgotten toy. But then I remembered what the boy said. It records everything the bad guys say. That night, Michael and Sarah came into my room. They thought I was sound asleep. I kept my breathing slow, rhythmic. I can't take it any more, Michael, Sarah whispered, sitting on the edge of my bed. I felt the mattress sink. Your father is still the same. He doesn't die and he doesn't get better. We are stuck, and the debts at the club are due next week. I know, woman, I know. I am pressured from all sides. The loan shark called me today. If I don't pay him soon, he is going to break my legs. And what are we going to do? We can't sell the house until he is gone." There was a long silence, a heavy silence loaded with dark intentions. Maybe, Michael started, and his voice trembled a little. Maybe there are ways to speed up nature. The doctor said his heart is weak. If we forget to give him his blood pressure pills for a couple of days, or if we give him a double dose of sedatives. "Would you dare?" Sarah asked. There was no horror in her voice, only practical curiosity. "It is for the good of everyone, Sarah. He is suffering. It is an act of mercy, and we need to survive. Tomorrow we start adjusting the medication." They left the room, leaving me with my heart galloping like a runaway horse. They wanted to kill me. My own son planned to murder me, but they didn't realize something. The little red light under the nightstand was still blinking. Sammy's spy robot was there. Silent witness. Impartial judge. Sammy, my innocent boy. Without knowing it, he had just handed me the weapon I needed to destroy them. The monitor was connected to the family cloud, the one that Philip, my lawyer and security expert, had configured for me years ago, and to which I had remote access. If I could contact him. Tomorrow, Philip would come. He had to come. My life depended on it. They say friends can be counted on the fingers of one hand, and you have fingers left over. In my case, I only need one. Philip. Philip is not just my lawyer. He is my brother from another mother. We grew up together in the neighborhood, stealing apples and running barefoot. He studied law while I carried bricks, and when I founded the construction company, he was the first to put my papers in order. I heard the doorbell ring, followed by angry voices in the foyer. "I'm sorry, counselor, but my dad is not up for visitors." It was Michael's voice, sharp and arrogant. The doctor said he needs absolute rest. Zero stress. "I'm not coming to stress him, boy. I am coming to see him. I am his legal representative and his friend for 50 years. So, with your permission or without it, I am coming in." "Hey, you can't enter like that," Sarah shrieked. "I'm going to call security." "Call whoever you want, little girl. But if you don't let me see Robert, I'll be back in an hour with a court order and 2 patrol cars. Is that what you want? A scandal in the neighborhood?" There was a tense silence. I knew the word scandal was kryptonite to them. They were terrified that the neighbors in the gated community would think they didn't have control. "All right, come in," Michael grunted, "but 5 minutes, and don't expect him to answer you. He is gone." The door to my room opened, and Philip entered. He looked older than I remembered. With his gray suit, a bit wrinkled, and that shiny bald head I always teased him about. Upon seeing me, his face crumbled. He took off his hat with respect. "Oh, Robert," he whispered, approaching the bed. "Look at how they have you, brother." Michael remained leaning on the doorframe, arms crossed, watching like a jailer. "You saw him. Now please, leave," Michael said. Philip looked me in the eyes. He was looking for something. He was looking for the Robert he knew, the fighter. I knew I only had a few seconds. I gathered all the strength left in my body, concentrating every ounce of energy in my right hand. When Philip took my hand to say goodbye, I squeezed it. It was not a spasm. It was a firm, deliberate squeeze. And then I did the hardest thing. I winked at him. A wink barely perceptible, but sufficient. Philip's eyes widened like saucers. He understood. He was always quick-minded. "Geez, Michael," Philip said, turning to my son, changing his tone to a more defeatist one. "You're right. He is in bad shape. He didn't even recognize me. What a sadness, man." "I told you," Michael replied, lowering his guard with a little smile of triumph. "Well, I'm leaving. Just leave me alone for a minute to say a prayer for him. I promise not to take long. It's an old people thing, you know." Michael rolled his eyes and went out into the hallway, leaving the door ajar. Philip leaned over me, sticking his ear to my mouth. "Philip?" I whispered, my voice sounding like sandpaper on stone. "No. Am I crazy? They want to kill me." Philip stiffened but didn't pull away. "The monitor," I stammered. signaling with my eyes toward the nightstand where Sammy's toy was still hidden behind the books. Listen, everything. Philip followed my gaze. He saw the red light blinking in the shadows. He nodded slightly, his face serious, no longer as a friend, but as the shark lawyer he was. Understood, brother. Hang in there. You are not alone. He straightened up, crossed himself aloud so Michael would hear him, and left the room. For the first time in months, I felt I could breathe. The cavalry had arrived. That same afternoon, the house filled with a strange silence. Sarah had taken Sammy to the park, and Michael and Emily stayed alone. Believing that I was in my usual state of inert lump, they decided to use my room as a boardroom. I suppose they liked the irony, planning my ruin right under my nose. Or maybe they are just too lazy to go elsewhere because the air conditioning is strongest here. They sat on the reading sofa a few feet from my bed. Emily was holding a glass of my best red wine. "Well, what did the accountant tell you?" she asked, taking a long sip. "We are screwed, Em. Simple as that." Michael massaged his temples. "I owe $3 million to the bank, and another chunk to some guys who aren't very patient. If I don't liquidate before the end of the month, they take my truck and seize my account." "Well, I'm not any better," Emily snorted. "The boutique sells nothing, just gathering dust. And my stupid ex-husband wants to lower the alimony. I need liquidity, Michael." "Yeah, I know. The only way out is this house. The land is worth gold. I already have an interested buyer, a developer who wants to knock all this down and build luxury condos." "Knock it down?" Emily looked around with indifference. "Well, better. This house was always in bad taste. Too rustic for my style." "And what do we do with the old man in the meantime?" "I already told you. The nursing home. Shady Pines." "I went to see it yesterday, Michael," Emily said with a grimace of disgust. "It is depressing. It smells like urine and boiled cabbage. The nurses look like they hate their lives, and the rooms are shared. Are we really going to put him there?" For a second, a fraction of a second, I had the hope that my daughter, my princess, had a moment of mercy. "It is what we can afford, Em," Michael replied coldly. "Luxury nursing homes cost a fortune monthly. If we put him in one of those, the inheritance goes in monthly payments. At Shady Pines, they charge almost nothing." "Well, looking at it that way," Emily shrugged and drank another sip. "You're right. Besides, he doesn't know anymore. He will be staring at the wall here or staring at the wall there. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that we have money left over to start from zero." "Exactly. The end justifies the means." "Hey, what if Philip reports us?" "That old lawyer has always been a pain in the neck." "Philip can't do anything if Dad signs the power of attorney, and I am going to make him sign, one way or another. I just need him to have a good day, or at least be able to hold the pen while I guide his hand. The notary is a friend of mine. He owes me a favor. He will look the other way." "Oh, little brother, you are an evil genius," Emily laughed. "Cheers to that." They clinked glasses. The sound of tinkling glass resonated in my head like a funeral bell. There they were, my children, selling my dignity for a few dollars, willing to throw me in a filthy hole to keep maintaining their fantasy lives. I didn't feel pain this time. I felt an icy clarity. They were no longer my children. They were hyenas fighting over the remains of a lion that was still breathing. But what the hyenas didn't know is that the TV monitor was still recording. Every word, every laugh, every dirty plan was being captured and sent directly to the cloud. The next day, Philip returned. This time he came prepared. He brought a large briefcase and an attitude that allowed no arguments. "I'm here to review some documents in your father's safe. I am the only one who has the combination, so don't try to stop me." He snapped at Sarah in the entrance before she could open her mouth. He entered my room and locked the door. Michael was outside, pounding on the door. "Open up, Philip. You have no right to lock yourself in with him." "I'm reviewing the will, boy. It is confidential." "Let us work," Philip shouted, and then turned to me with a conspiratorial smile. He quickly crouched next to the nightstand. "Sammy is a smart kid. God bless him," Philip whispered as he pulled out his tablet. "Robert, When I installed the security system for this house 5 years ago, do you remember we connected everything to a private server? Cameras, alarms, and it turns out the system detected the new Wi-Fi device, the kid's monitor. He showed me the screen. There it was. A list of audio and video files, organized by date and time. The password is still the same. Linda's birthday. I logged in last night from my office. Robert? Philip became serious, his eyes filled with deep sadness. I heard about yesterday. The nursing home. The debts. I nodded slowly, swallowing the bile. It is horrible, brother. They have no heart. But this... He tapped the tablet with his index finger. This is pure gold. We have confessions. We have conspiracy to commit fraud. We have proof of negligence. More, I whispered, forcing my throat. There is more. More? They plan to kill me. Philip froze. Listen, I told him, pointing to the most recent file, the one from the night before when they talked about the pills. Philip put on the headphones and hit play. I watched his face change color. It went from the red of indignation to the white of horror. His hands trembled as he held the tablet. He took off the headphones and looked at me with terror. Sons of bitches, he muttered, and Philip never swore. They are talking about suspending your heart medication. That is attempted murder, Robert. I have to call the police right now. I shook my head violently. I tried to get up, but my body didn't respond. I made a guttural sound to stop him. No? I managed to say forcefully. What do you mean, no? Your life is in danger. Wait. I took a breath. Every word was a titanic effort. I want to see them fall. Philip looked at me doubting. Then he saw the fire in my eyes. That fire he knew well. The same one I had when I negotiated $1-million contracts and crushed the competition. What do you have in mind, you old fox? The meeting. Sunday. Say that. I'm going to sign. Prepare everything? Philip understood. A slow and dangerous smile appeared on his face. You want to set a trap for them? You want everyone to gather, thinking they're going to win and drop the bomb on them? I nodded. All right. But I am putting private security outside the house starting today. No one is going to touch a hair on your head, Robert, and I am going to duplicate these files on 3 different servers. If anything happens to you, they go to jail for life. Sunday, I repeated. Sunday will be Judgment Day, Philip sentenced. He threw the door open. Michael almost fell inside as he was spying through the keyhole. Everything in order, Philip said with a loud and professional voice. Michael, your father has had a moment of lucidity. He wants to fix things. Sunday I will come with the notary, so he can sign the transfer of the house. Prepare the family. I saw how Michael's eyes shone with greed. He had taken the bait. Greed is like a drug. It blinds you, makes you stupid, and makes you believe you are invincible. Since Philip announced the Sunday signing, the treatment towards me changed radically. Suddenly I was no longer the old piece of furniture. Now I was the dear dad, who needed to be comfortable to sign. But the cruelty was still there, latent, disguised as fake attentions. Friday night, while they were having dinner in the dining room, leaving the door open to watch me, the conversation turned towards the macabre. The monitor, faithful sentinel, was still recording. Hey, honey, Sarah said with her mouth full. What is going to happen after he signs? I mean, if he signs on Sunday, the house is ours, but he is still here. Monday, we process the nursing home paperwork, Michael replied. But, he was thinking, if we already have the signature, why spend on the nursing home? What do you mean? The doctor said any strong emotion could be fatal, or the lack of his medicine. If on Monday, accidentally, we forget to give him the blood pressure pills, and maybe we give him a scare, or just let nature take its accelerated course, we save the nursing home and go straight to the funeral. Oh, Michael, how macabre you are, Emily said, laughing. But you are right. A funeral is cheaper than 10 years of nursing home. Hey, by the way, do you think black looks good on me? I saw a dress in a magazine, lace, gorgeous. I want to look devastated, but elegant for the cameras. You know, important people are coming. Buy it, Michael said generously. Pay for it with the credit card. Anyway, on Monday we will be millionaires. And you, Sarah? Emily asked. Have you thought about what you're going to put on the boy? I don't want Sammy looking like a bum at his grandfather's wake. A little navy blue suit. He will look divine crying next to the coffin. Listening to them was like feeling rusty knives piercing my soul. Not only were they planning my death, they were organizing it like a social event. They discussed my funeral as if it were a wedding or a baptism, my life, my sacrifices, all reduced to a fashion runway so they could show off their fake grief. I looked at the ceiling, looking for God. Why, Lord, why did you allow my blood to rot in this way? But then I remembered. God gives free will. They chose to be demons. I choose to be the punishment. That night, I didn't sleep. I spent the hours reviewing my life, saying goodbye to the image I had of my children. I killed the loving father that lived in me to make way for the ruthless judge. Michael and Emily were no longer my children. They were the accused, and I had the gavel ready to pass sentence. Saturday dawned gray, as if the sky knew what was coming. Philip arrived early, supposedly to prepare the documents. But in reality, we came to fine-tune the details of the execution. He locked himself with me. This time he brought a red folder and a black one. The red folder is the one they think you're going to sign, he explained in a low voice. The cession of rights, power of attorney, everything that takes even your underwear. And the black one? I asked. The black one is the true will of Mr. Robert Miller. He opened the black folder. There was the New Testament we had drafted in secret weeks ago, when I could still talk a little better on the phone, before they took my cell phone. But now we had added new clauses, based on the recordings. The Sammy Trust, Philip read. Everything, absolutely everything. The house, the bank accounts, the investments, the construction company shares, goes to the name of an irrevocable trust. The sole beneficiary is Sammy Miller, your grandson. Conditions? I murmured. Yes. Sammy won't be able to touch a penny until he turns 25 and proves he has a university degree and a stable job. Meanwhile, the trust will pay for his education and health directly to the providers. Not a dime will pass through Michael or Sarah's hands. And them? For your children, Philip smiled with sadness and satisfaction at the same time. A disinheritance clause for unworthiness, supported by evidence of psychological abuse and attempted fraud. They get nothing. 0. And also an immediate eviction order. They have 24 hours to get the hell out of this house once the will is read. Perfect, I said. The word came out clear. Round. The anger was giving me back my speech. There is one more detail, Robert. The criminal part. With the recordings we have, I can put them in jail for years. Attempted murder is not a game. Do you want to proceed with that? I stayed thinking. I looked at Linda's photo on my nightstand. Would she want to see her children behind bars? Maybe not. But she didn't hear how they planned to kill me to buy mourning dresses. First, the shame, I said. Let them feel the fear. Jail? We'll see. Understood. First, we destroy them socially and financially. If after that they don't learn, we release the hounds. Philip put away the documents. Tomorrow at 12, the notary will come. Your children will come. And at Michael's request, they invited some uncles and partners to celebrate. They want witnesses to their triumph. They will be witnesses to their funeral, I corrected. Rest, brother. Tomorrow you need all your strength. Tomorrow you get up from that chair, even if it is for the last time to roar. Philip left. I remained alone, looking at my hands. They didn't tremble so much anymore. Adrenaline is a powerful medicine. Tomorrow, Sunday, the family would gather. There would be food, there would be wine, there would be fake smiles, and there would be a giant screen. Michael had asked to install a projector in the living room to show old photos and make the moment emotional before the signing. Poor fool. He himself had set the stage for his own execution. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in months, I slept with a smile on my lips. Let the show begin. Sunday arrived with a radiant sun that hurt the eyes, a cruel mockery for the darkness that inhabited this house. From early on, the hustle and bustle was unbearable. Sarah ran from one side to another, giving orders to the catering service. Yes, they hired waiters for my supposed signing, making sure the salmon canapes and champagne were ready. They dressed me like a ventriloquist dummy, a dark suit that was too big for me now that I have lost so much weight, a starched shirt that scratched my neck, and a tie that felt like a noose. They combed my hair with gel, trying to hide the gray hairs and baldness, as if they wanted to present a pretty corpse before putting it in the coffin. "You look very good, Dad," Emily lied, adjusting the handkerchief in my pocket. "Today is a big day. Finally, you are going to rest from so many worries." Rest. That was her code word for stop being in the way. At 12 o'clock sharp, the guests began to arrive. There weren't many, but they were strategic. There was the notary, Mr. Miller, a sweaty and servile man who had always played along with Michael. There was Dr. Stevens, that quack with no ethics who signed my prescriptions without checking me. And there was my sister, Aunt Lucy, a good but naive woman who blindly believed in the goodness of her nephews. "Oh, little brother," Aunt Lucy exclaimed, seeing me in the wheelchair with watery eyes. "Look at you! But how good that your children take such good care of you. They are angels, bless God!" I wanted to scream at her. "Open your eyes, Lucy. They are demons." But I kept my role, head down, gaze lost, mouth half open. Drool dripped a little from the corner of my lips, a detail I decided not to wipe, to increase the drama. Let them see the misery they were so eager to discard. They took me to the main living room. They had moved the furniture to create a central space, like a stage. In front of my wheelchair, a low table with the prepared documents, and in the background, a huge projection screen connected to a laptop. "It is to show him family photos before signing," Michael explained to the guests, with a voice broken by emotion. "We want Dad to remember the good times. We want him to feel loved in this moment of difficult transition." What an actor Hollywood lost, damn it. If he wasn't my son, I would applaud him. He wiped a non-existent tear while serving wine to those present. Philip arrived last. He entered with his briefcase and two tall men in black suits and dark glasses who stayed at the door. "What's with the gorillas?" Michael asked, annoyed. "Firm security, boy," Philip replied calmly. "I bring original documents of high value, standard protocol." Michael had no choice but to accept. Everything was ready. The stage set, the actors in position, and the victim, me, in the center of the ring. I felt a strange calm. It was not fear. It was the calm of the sniper before pulling the trigger. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with that air stale with Sarah's expensive perfume and the notary's cheap lotion. "Enjoy your champagne," I thought, "because it is going to be the last thing that tastes sweet to you in this life." The murmur of the room died down when Notary Miller cleared his throat, indicating the ceremony was about to begin. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said with a pompous voice. "We are gathered here to witness an act of love and responsibility. Mr. Robert Miller, in full use of his faculties." I looked at Michael and winked discreetly. "Has decided to cede the administration and ownership of his assets to his children, Michael and Emily Miller, to ensure his own well-being and rest." Michael approached me with a gold Mont Blanc pen, one I gave him when he graduated from college, and which he probably pawned and got back. "Dad," he said, squatting down to be at my level, "here it is. You just have to put your scribble here where the X is. We take care of the rest. You don't have to worry about anything anymore." He put the pen in my right hand. My hand trembled, not from weakness, but from the contained fury that threatened to explode. "Come on, father-in-law, do it for the family," Sarah encouraged from behind with a shark smile. "Yes, Dad. Sign, and then we see the photos," Emily insisted, looking at her watch. She surely was in a hurry to go shopping. I felt the weight of the pen. I felt the weight of their greedy gazes. I felt the weight of my own history, about to be erased, but not today. I dropped the pen. The metallic sound hitting the marble floor resonated like a gunshot in the silence of the room. Clack! Michael sighed with impatience and bent down to pick it up. He dropped it. He is very weak. Hold his hand, he ordered the notary. When Michael tried to take my hand to force the signature, it happened. I raised my head. It was not a slow and trembling movement of a sick old man. It was a dry, fast, authoritative movement. I straightened my back, tensing the muscles I had been exercising in secret at night. My eyes, which had been cloudy and empty for months, locked onto Michael's with the intensity of a blowtorch. Michael froze with the pen halfway up. He saw something in my gaze he hadn't seen in a long time. The Robert Miller who fired thieving foremen, the man who negotiated with corrupt unions. The room held its breath. I opened my mouth. My throat was dry, but my will was of iron. No, I said. The word came out hoarse but clear, powerful. There were no babbles. It was a resounding no that bounced off the walls. Sarah dropped a crystal glass that shattered on the floor. Emily put her hands to her mouth. The notary stepped back, pale. Dad? Michael stuttered, backing away as if he had seen a ghost. You spoke? The doctor said that... The doctor's an imbecile, I interrupted, turning my head to glare at Dr. Stevens, who seemed to want to become invisible. And you, Michael, are delusional. The silence that followed was absolute, dense, almost solid. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning. No one moved. No one breathed. Did you think I was asleep? I asked, raising my voice, letting the tone of command I used for 40 years return to my throat. Did you think I was deaf or stupid? Dad, It is a miracle, Emily tried to improvise, approaching with a trembling smile, trying to recover the script of the loving daughter. I raised a hand to stop her. The gesture was so imperious, she stopped dead. Shut up, Emily. You have spoken too much already. All of you have spoken too much. I looked at Philip, who was standing next to the laptop with a satisfied smile. Philip, the projector. The projector? Michael asked, confused and terrified. What for? The photos? No. First we listen, I sentenced, locking my eyes on his, and I want you to listen well, because it is the most expensive music you are going to hear in your miserable lives. Philip pressed a key. On the giant screen, no family photo appeared. An audio interface appeared, with green sound waves on a black background. The date and time were marked in large letters. 3 weeks ago, 4:30 p.m., and then the voices filled the room. The audio quality was surprisingly sharp. The echo of the empty room, the sound of footsteps, and then Emily's unmistakable voice. God, it smells like formaldehyde and dirty diapers. How much longer is this old man going to last? I'm sick of coming to pretend I care about his health. A stifled scream escaped Aunt Lucy's throat. She put her hands to her chest, looking at her niece with horror. Emily turned red as a tomato, then pale as wax. She opened her mouth to protest, but the audio continued mercilessly. Michael's voice resonated clear and arrogant. Patience, little sister. He does not hear, he does not understand. It is a matter of weeks before he goes to the other side, and the house is ours. Just make sure he signs before he kicks the bucket. I saw Michael close his eyes as if he wanted to disappear. His fists were clenched at his sides, knuckles white. The guests began to murmur. The notary looked toward the door, calculating his escape route. Philip didn't stop. He clicked on another file. Sarah's voice, shrill and mean. I found a place on the outskirts. It is cheap. Smells like mold, but what does he care? He doesn't know anything anymore. Perfect! It was Michael's voice again. With what we save there and the sale of the house, I pay my gambling debts, and you buy that car. Cheers to the old man's dementia. The sound of glasses clinking in the recording was the final touch. It was grotesque, brutal. It's a lie! Emily screamed, hysterical, breaking the spell. That is edited. It is artificial intelligence. Philip fabricated it to steal the inheritance. Artificial intelligence? I replied from my chair with a calm that contrasted with her hysteria. Emily, you don't have enough natural intelligence to invent a better excuse. Turn that off, Michael roared, lunging toward the table where the laptop was. But he didn't make it. One of Philip's gorillas stepped in his way like a granite wall. Michael bounced off the bodyguard's chest and fell to the floor, humiliated. We haven't finished, Philip said with a voice of ice. The best part is missing. The criminal part. He pressed play on the last file, the one from Friday night. The room filled with the darkest conspiracy. If we forget to give him the blood pressure pills for a couple of days, or if we give him a double dose of sedatives, said Michael's voice. Would you dare? Asked Sarah. It is for the good of everyone. A cardiac arrest, and that's it. The silence that followed that last sentence was sepulchral. There were no more murmurs. There was fear. Aunt Lucy was weeping openly, hugging her purse. Dr. Stevens was visibly trembling. He knew his complicity in signing a fake death certificate would lead him to jail. I looked at my children. They were destroyed, naked before the world. Their expensive clothes and jewelry could no longer cover the rot of their souls. The curtain had fallen, and the audience was horrified. Is that what I am to you? I asked, my voice breaking for the first time, not from weakness, but from the pure pain of betrayal. A nuisance that must be killed to pay gambling debts? An old dog that must be put down? No one answered. Only Sarah's hypocritical sobbing was heard, now trying to play the victim card. We were desperate, Sarah squealed. We had debts. We did it for Sammy. Do not dare mention my grandson with that dirty mouth, I bellowed, hitting the arm of the chair with such force that my hand hurt. Sammy is the only pure thing in this house, and you are unworthy of being his parents. The atmosphere in the room was toxic. It smelled of fear and cold sweat. Michael got up from the floor, dusting off his suit, trying to recover a shred of dignity he no longer had. His bloodshot eyes looked at me with hatred. There was no mask anymore. There was no dear dad. There was only an enemy. Very well, old man, he spat the words. You recorded us. Congratulations. You are the Count of Monte Cristo. And now what? You think you can humiliate us like this? I am your son. You have the obligation to help me. Obligation? I laughed, a dry and raspy laugh. My only obligation was to raise you to be a good man, and in that I failed miserably. I need the money, he shouted, losing his temper. Those guys are going to kill me if I don't pay. It is your fault for spoiling me, for giving me everything. You made me like this. Yes, I admitted, and that truth hurt more than the stroke. I made you useless. I removed the stones from the path. But the evil, Michael, the evil you put there all by yourself, I taught you to work, not to plan your father's death. I turned to the audience, to the silent witnesses of this Greek tragedy. Look at them, I pointed at my children with my index finger, firm as a sentence. These are the ones who were going to cry over my coffin tomorrow. These are the ones who were going to receive your condolences. Look at them well, because today the sheep's clothing fell off and you can see the fangs. Dad, please, Emily moaned, approaching on her knees. Yes, on knees. Pathetic. Don't leave me on the street. You know I don't know how to do anything. I will starve. You have 2 hands and 2 feet, daughter. They are healthy. I started carrying bags of cement. You can start cleaning floors or waiting tables. Work dishonors no one. What is dishonorable is waiting for someone else to die to live off their corpse. This is illegal, the notary intervened, trying to save his skin. Recording private conversations without consent is perfectly legal in my own house, counselor. Philip cut him off, especially when it concerns the commission of a serious crime. And, by the way, your name also appears in some recordings, accepting bribes to expedite shady paperwork. I suggest you shut up if you don't want to lose your license today. The notary shut his mouth with a snap and sank into the sofa. I watched how you turned into demons, I said, staring at nothing. Night after night, listening to your plans, your laughs. I felt my heart breaking, piece by piece. But you know what? I also felt a new spine growing. I signaled Philip. Let's finish this. It makes me sick to breathe the same air as them. Philip took the folder that was on the table, the one Michael had prepared with such care, and threw it into the air. The sheets flew and fell like funeral confetti on the Persian rug. "Those papers are trash," Philip announced. Then he took out of his briefcase a black leather folder, thick and elegant. He placed it gently on my legs. "This," Philip said, "is the only valid will, and it is already signed, notarized, and registered with a competent and honest authority, not like this clown you brought here." "What? What does it say there?" Sarah asked with a trembling voice, wiping her runny mascara. I opened the folder. I didn't need to read it. I knew every clause by memory, but I enjoyed the moment. "Clause 1, I read aloud. "Any previous will is revoked." Clause 2. "Carlos Rogelio Miller and Emily Miller are declared unworthy to succeed due to ingratitude, psychological abuse, and attempted homicide against the testator." A collective gasp was heard. In the law, ingratitude and attempted crime are real causes for total disinheritance. They wouldn't even get the statutory minimum. Clause 3, I continued, savoring every syllable. "The totality of present and future assets, including this property, bank accounts, construction company shares, and vehicles, pass to become part of the Sammy Miller Trust." "Sammy?" Michael whispered. "You left everything to Sammy?" "Yes, but don't get excited." I smiled coldly at him. "The trust is irrevocable and is administered by an external board presided over by Philip. You, as parents, do not have access to a single penny. Not one. If Sammy needs school, the trust pays the school. If he needs clothes, the trust pays the store. You will not see a dime." "That is robbery," Michael shouted. "I am his father. I have the right to administer his assets." "You lost that right when you planned to kill his grandfather," Philip replied. "And there is more." Philip took out an individual document and handed it to Michael. It was a court order. "Eviction order," Philip explained. "This house is now property of the trust, and the trust considers the presence of people with violent and criminal records a risk to the minor and the estate." "Eviction?" Emily looked about to faint. "When?" "You have 24 hours," I said, "and I am generous. I should kick you out right now, but I want you to pack your rags. Only your clothes and personal items. The furniture, the paintings, your mother's jewelry. Everything stays. Everything belongs to Sammy." "Dad, you can't do this to us," Sarah cried. "Where are we going to go? We have no money. Michael owes millions. They are going to kill us." "Well, then I suggest you run," I said, closing the folder with a sharp thud. "Or that you work. There is a lot of demand for bricklayers and maids. Maybe that way you learn what it costs to earn a living." "Damn, old man." Michael tried to lunge at me again, but the guards immobilized him, twisting his arm behind his back. "Get them out of my sight," I ordered, feeling a sudden tiredness, but a good tiredness, the tiredness of duty fulfilled. "Let them go to their room to pack, and watch them. Make sure they don't steal even a silver spoon." While the guards dragged Michael, who shouted obscenities, and Emily and Sarah followed crying, I turned to Aunt Lucy and the other astonished guests. "Forgive the show," I said, smoothing my jacket, "but sometimes, to clean the house, you have to take the trash out in plain view. Who wants some cake?" The silence broke, not with applause, but with the sound of reality settling in. I had signed their sentence, not of death, but something worse for them, the sentence of poverty. And for the first time in a long time, the air in the room felt clean. The atmosphere in the living room was no longer of fear. It was of pure misery, that human misery that distills when an arrogant person is stripped of power. Michael, who minutes before looked at me with hatred, was now on his knees, clinging to the wheel of my chair. Yes, the same man who planned my cardiovascular accident was now crying on my paralyzed legs, "Dad, please." "It was a joke," he stammered, snot running down his nose. What a pathetic image! A 40-year-old man crying like a child whose candy was taken away. We were stressed. We said nonsense. You know we would never hurt you for real. I am your blood. I looked down at him. I felt disgust, not for his crying, but for his lack of manhood. If you are going to be a villain, at least have the decency to hold your head high when you get caught. A joke, Michael? I asked him, pushing his hand away from my chair with a sharp slap. Leaving me without pills is a joke? Burying me in a common grave is a funny anecdote? We weren't going to do it. We were just talking to talk. The problem, son, is that you talk too much, and the law doesn't understand jokes when there is evidence of premeditation. Philip approached and put a hand on his shoulder, not to comfort him, but to hand him another paper. This is the copy of the complaint that is already at the prosecutor's office, Philip said with his professional tone, cold as steel. Attempted murder, breach of trust, and elder abuse. The recordings are already in the hands of the district attorney. Hearing district attorney, Sarah let out a shriek and collapsed on the sofa, fanning herself with her hand as if she lacked air. I'm going to go to jail, she shrieked. Michael, do something. I can't go to jail. I'm a mother. You should have thought about that before planning the murder of your son's grandfather, I snapped at her. By the way, the trust has a special clause. If you step in jail, Sammy's full custody passes temporarily to my sister Lucy, and legal guardianship to Philip. The boy will not be left helpless. You will. Emily, who had been quiet in a corner, approached trembling. Dad, I didn't say anything about killing you. That was them. You just wanted the money for your rags and your trips, I interrupted her. You are an accomplice by omission and by greed. You heard how they planned my death, and you did nothing. You laughed. You toasted. Your silence condemns you as much as their words. But what am I going to do? She moaned. The apartment, my car, I owe everything. Sell the designer bags, sell the shoes, sell your dignity, if you have any left, I told her without mercy. You have health, Emily. You have 2 hands. Use them to work. Be thankful that I am not charging you rent for all the years you lived as a parasite on my ribs. I turned to the guards. Take them to their rooms. Let them pack. I want every suitcase checked. If they take anything that isn't clothes or personal hygiene items, call the patrol immediately. And I want them off my property before the sun goes down. You can't do this to us, Michael shouted while they lifted him from the floor. This is my house. I grew up here. This house I built, I roared, silencing his protests. Brick by brick, and you filled it with poison. Now get out of my sight. They were taken away, dragging their feet. Defeated, humiliated, the guests slipped away one by one, without saying goodbye, ashamed of having been part of that circus. I remained alone with Philip and Aunt Lucy in the empty living room. The silence had never sounded so sweet. The afternoon fell quickly, dyeing the sky a bloody orange color. I was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the main entrance. I wasn't going to miss this. I wanted to see them cross the threshold for the last time. At 6 p.m, the door opened. They came out like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Michael was carrying 3 large suitcases, sweating, with his shirt unbuttoned and his tie crooked. Sarah dragged a pink suitcase and carried a purse over her shoulder, with eyes swollen from so much crying. Emily came behind with several black garbage bags because all her clothes didn't fit in the suitcases. What irony. The woman who only wore designer clothes, carrying her life in plastic bags. The worst for them wasn't the weight of the suitcases. It was the audience. The neighbors of the gated community, those good people they wanted to impress so much, had come out to their gardens and balconies. The scandal of the afternoon, the screams, the presence of security. Gossip flies faster than light. Look, there they go, whispered the lady across the street, Mrs. Clara, without hiding it. They say Mr. Miller disinherited them for trying to kill him. How barbarous. And they looked so decent, another neighbor commented. Michael walked with his head down, trying to ignore the stares. But Emily couldn't take it. The heel of one of her expensive shoes broke on the cobblestones of the entrance. She fell to her knees, dropping the black bags. Her clothes spilled on the ground. Damn it! Damn everything! She shouted, hitting the floor with her fist. No one went to help her, not her brother, not her sister-in-law. Each one was locked in their own misfortune. When they reached the black iron gate, where I was sitting, they stopped. Michael looked at me. There was hatred in his eyes, yes, but also fear. A lot of fear. The fear of a domestic animal that is suddenly released into the jungle. "Are you happy, old man?" He spat at me. "You ruined our lives." "No, Michael," I replied calmly, staring at him. "I gave you life. You managed to ruin it all by yourselves. I just took away the mattress where you landed softly every time you failed. Now you're going to know the hard ground." "We won't see Sammy again," Sarah threatened, with poison in her voice. "We won't let you see him." "Try it," Philip intervened, appearing behind me like a protective shadow. "The court order includes a restraining order for you towards the child until the criminal trial is resolved. Sammy stays here, under the temporary guardianship of the trust. If you try to take him, it will be kidnapping. And believe me, in jail there is no beauty salon, Sarah." Sarah paled and shut her mouth. She knew Philip wasn't bluffing. "Get out," I said, feeling my patience running out. "And don't look back. There is nothing here for you anymore. No money, no house, no father." The guard opened the electric gate. The screeching of the metal sounded like a final goodbye. They went out to the street. Without luxury cars, which were in the company's name and were seized by Philip, they had to walk to the avenue to call a cab. I watched them walk away, dragging their suitcases while the neighbors murmured and pointed. The walk of shame had ended. I closed my eyes and breathed the fresh night air. It smelled of jasmine and liberty. "It's over, brother," Philip said, putting a hand on my shoulder. "No, Philip," I murmured. "It's just starting. For them, hell begins. For me, rest begins." That night the house felt huge, gigantic, without Michael's loud music, without Sarah's screams, without Emily's complaints. Just silence. But it wasn't an empty silence. It was a silence of peace. I asked to be taken to Sammy's room. The boy slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm that had just ripped his parents from his side. He looked so innocent, hugging his teddy bear. He wasn't to blame for the blood that ran through his veins. I sat in my chair next to his bed, watching his sleep. "I saved you, my boy," I whispered in the dark. "I saved you from becoming them. You will grow up without excessive luxuries, but you will grow up with honor. You will learn what $1 is worth, and someday you will understand why Grandpa had to be the villain of the story to save your future." Then I went to my room. I took Linda's photo out of the nightstand drawer. I caressed it with my thumb, tracing her eternal smile. "Oh, honey," I spoke to the photo with a broken voice. "Forgive me. I had to kick them out. I had to do it. They turned into wolves, Linda. They wanted to eat me alive." I felt a tear roll down, the pain of a father who has to amputate a gangrenous limb to survive. It hurts. Damn, how it hurts. It bleeds. But if you don't do it, the infection kills you. I thought about everything I worked for, the calloused hands, the sunburned back, the sacrifices. What for? To raise parasites? Money is a magnet for parasites, even if they carry your blood, I thought. It is a lesson I learned too late. I confused giving them everything with giving them love. And by giving them everything, I took away the most important thing. The hunger to improve, the hunger to be someone on their own merit. But loyalty, that is something else. I looked at the baby monitor that was still on the table. That small piece of plastic had shown more loyalty to me than 30 years of parenting. "God bless technology," I said with a bitter half-smile, and bless the devil that tempted them to talk in front of it. I lay down in my bed. For the first time in months, I wasn't afraid to close my eyes. There was no one in the house planning my death. Only Sammy was there, Philip in the guest room just in case, and the guards outside. I slept. I slept like a baby. Or rather, I slept like a just man who has just passed sentence. A month has passed since Judgment Day. 30 days that have tasted like glory. My health has improved notably. I no longer pretend to be crippled. With daily therapy, paid with the money my children used to spend on wines, I can now walk with a cane. I speak slowly, but clearly, and most importantly, I rule in my house. Philip came today with his monthly report. He has become my private detective, tracking the exiles, as he calls them. Do you want to see? He asked me, taking some photos out of a manila envelope. I nodded. Curiosity is a vice that doesn't go away with age. The first photo was of Michael. He was at the wholesale market. He looked thinner, dirty, carrying boxes of fruit on a hand truck. The loan sharks took everything, even his watch, Philip explained. They have him threatened. He has to pay them weekly. So he grabbed the first thing he found. He is a loader. He works from 4 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. I smiled. Not out of cruelty, but out of poetic justice. I started carrying bags. Now he is living my beginnings. Maybe, just maybe, the sweat cleans his soul a little. Or maybe he breaks his back. Either way, it is his lesson. And Sarah? I asked. She went back to her mother's house in a lost town. She sells cosmetics by catalog. They say she spends her time crying and cursing your name to anyone who wants to listen. Let her bark. A dog that barks doesn't bite. And Emily? Philip sighed and passed me another photo. Emily was leaving an apartment building in a rough area of the city. She looked haggard, without makeup, dressed in ordinary clothes. Her husband asked for a divorce the day after he found out about the disinheritance. He left her on the street. Now she lives in a small rooftop room in the doctor's district. She works as a receptionist in a shady dental clinic. I looked at the photo. My princess, the one who couldn't repeat a dress, now lived in the kind of place she wanted to send me to die. The shady nursing home, I murmured. In the end, she ended up in one, and I am still in my palace. Divine justice is slow, but it arrives, Robert, Philip said, putting away the photos. By the way, the prosecutor says the criminal case is going strong. It is likely that arrest warrants will be issued in a few months if they don't show up to testify. They are hiding, but the law is going to find them. Let it find them or let them run. I don't care anymore. To me, they are already dead. I got up with the help of my cane and walked to the window. The garden was green, well kept. Sammy was playing outside with a new dog we bought him. He looked happy. He didn't ask much about his parents. Children are wise. They know where there is love and where there is interest. And the trust? I asked. Armored. Sammy will have a brilliant future, but he will have to work to deserve it, just as you stipulated. Good. That is the only thing that matters. The Miller Empire will survive, but this time it will be built on foundations of truth, not hypocrisy. I went out to the porch to take the afternoon sun. It is my sacred ritual now, feeling the heat on my face, listening to the birds, knowing that I am the master of my destiny. In my hand I carried the small baby monitor, the silent hero of this story. I looked at it one last time. A piece of white plastic, a cheap camera lens, a little red light that no longer blinked because I took the batteries out. So insignificant, and yet so powerful. I remembered Michael's voice. It is a matter of weeks before he goes to the other side. I remembered Emily's laugh. If it hadn't been for this device, today I would be dead, buried 3 meters underground, while they toasted with my champagne over my grave. A shiver ran through my body, but it left quickly. They can't hurt me anymore. Sammy ran toward me with the dog barking at his heels. "Grandpa, look!" he shouted, showing me a flower he had pulled up. "It is for you." "Thanks, mijo," I told him, caressing his sweaty hair. "What is that?" he asked, pointing to the monitor in my hand. "This—" I weighed it in my palm. "This is a lesson, Sammy. It is a reminder that you always have to keep your eyes open and your ears attentive. But it already fulfilled its mission. Is it useful anymore? No, we don't need to listen to ghosts anymore." I approached the trash can that was next to the entrance. I lifted the lid. I looked at the monitor one last time. It was my witness, my prosecutor, and my savior. But keeping it here is remaining tied to resentment, and I want to live what I have left of life in peace. I dropped the device. Clunk. It fell on some dry leaves and disappeared into the darkness of the can. My children wanted to silence me. They wanted me to be a deaf and mute piece of furniture. Well, they won a part. I leaned on my cane, watching the sun set, painting the sky colors that only the living can appreciate. I smiled. A crooked smile, yes, but genuine. My children wanted me to be deaf. I granted their wish. Now I am deaf to their pleas, deaf to their crying, and deaf to their misery. Forever. If this story has captivated you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box to the left of the screen. Thanks for watching.